So today, I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. I want to talk about the deck of many things. I want to talk about the brilliance of designer Mackenzie DeArmas. And specifically, I want to talk about two central locations which are presented in the deck of many things and how they were specifically put here, in my humble opinion, by Mackenzie DeArmas to teach us about Dungeons and Dragons. And then, consequently, because Dungeons and Dragons is a life model, in my humble opinion, uh, presented to the world on February 7th, 1974, by Gary Gygax, the third greatest American after George Washington and Harriet Tubman, that this is not just Mackenzie Darmus is teaching us is mapping Dungeons and Dragons infrastructurally for us, and consequently, because her work echoes Gary's work, is actually explaining life to us. Let's get into this. All right, so let's talk about these two central locations in Dungeons and Dragons: the Tavern and the Cavern. They are the same. They are the same. Okay, they literally only differ by one letter, right? But they are places people go into meaningfully that are filled with outrageous, unbelievable, horrible dangers, right? The cavern, right? The player characters, masterfully controlled by the dragon masters, go into the cavern, right? And they find oozes, and they find displacer beasts, and they find um, like the monsters that hang off of they look like stalactites, right? And there are just so many monsters that are found there, just horrible monsters that are there to kill them, right? And the player characters need to defend themselves, need to make sure they're safe, need to be together, and need to rely on each other to survive the cavern. The tavern is exactly the same, right? You go in, what can happen to you? Well, you can be knocked out. Like, oh my! When you go into the cavern, you could be knocked out by a by a roper, right? When you go into the tavern, you could be knocked out by a creature that is exactly like a roper, and only one letter changes. Are you following? Do you understand it? When we look at Dungeons and Dragons, when we see it, when we when we use the light that is reflecting off of Dungeons and Dragons to look at our own lives, it gleams off of the facets that have been made there by our friends, by our family, by those who care about us, and those who have hurt us. Right? We understand the world at a fundamentally different level than the muggles around us. You are a wizard, Harry. Dungeons and Dragons is what is delivering the wizard world for us. We see the world dramatically different. We don't if you are a dungeon master, if you are a dragon master, you no longer walk through this earth like a muggle. You are the wizard. Gary Gygax started it. Mackenzie DeArmas does his work today. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing and have a wonderful millennium.